Hello Airfix fans, welcome to the first ever episode of Sprue Talk. So as this is the first episode, I'm just going to outlay exactly what this is. I'm going to be talking to a couple of guests every month, just a nice sit down chat about various different subjects. So for example, today is going to be about new releases and 2022 range launch. So getting straight into it then, my first two guests are Dale and Luke. Now Dale is head of brand for Airfix, and Luke is Airfix researcher. So for you at home that may not know me, I'm Mike. I work on Signalbox on Hornby. If you've seen it, I know you say that quite quietly that Hornby is another brand that Airfix are involved with. But yeah, Dale, do you want to tell everyone at home a little bit about you and how you came to be with Airfix?
Yeah, so I joined Airfix in 2008, I think it was originally. Worked on the brand for 3 years or so. I then did a couple of years on Humbrol, and then a year on Scale Electric, and then left the business. So I've been away from the business for the last 8 years, and then 6 months ago I came back. So yeah, here I am. And I must admit, I don't think I could have joined at a better time. There's so much going on. It's certainly making my life easier, but then quite erratic at the same time, because there is so much going on. It's good fun. So
I guess when you come in the middle of that kind of our year, I suppose, from the previous range launch to the new one, it's quite difficult, right?
Yeah, but then it was great to be here that much, before the range launch, instead of just sort of turning up now and that's been and gone. So to influence that was great fun. Obviously, I have no influence over the range that we've announced this year. But for next year and beyond, me and Luke are busy influencing all of that.
You're influencers. Hold on.
Well, hang on a minute. I'm going to be brand manager. Well, we're all influencers. So
Luke, you mustn't have started too dissimilar time-wise.
No, just before Dale, but I don't have the history with the brand previously. So yeah, I started May 2021. So coming up to a year. Not too far off of that.
Time flies.
Yeah, time has flown. But yeah, so I've grown up with Airfix. Built Airfix models as a kid. I'm only local, so from down the road in Sandwich. Actually used to come here, the visitor centre, to build models, and it's a bit surreal to now be working here. My background is product design, so I can chat to our designers and it doesn't go straight over the head. But I've always had this interest in aviation, and that's sort of how I got into the researcher role. So my responsibility is researching the products that are coming up and sort of guiding the development team on what models we should make in the future.
So obviously, as you both know, I'm sort of a novice when it comes to model making and painting and things like that. So I'll be asking you guys a lot of questions about things, and as we go on, we'll hopefully get Paramjet and modelers and things like that to come in and talk about different things. But like I said, this episode we're going to talk about the 2022 range, and we've got some latest releases in that range that you wanted to talk about. So should we start with the Harrier?
So the Sea Harrier FRS1 landed this week into our warehouse. So that's already available on our own website and has started to go out to retailers already, and that's obviously just in time for the 40th anniversary of the Falklands conflict. So yeah, that's back. It's not been in the range for a little while now, has it? But it's been seen various times since 2011. I think when it was originally
2010 when I went back and checked it.
So I said 10 yesterday.
You were right.
Corrected me.
Sorry.
So it's been seen in several guises since. So this year we felt it was right to release it. I think it was in the catalogue last year actually, but it was always intended for release now.
Because of the anniversary.
And the team have done a fantastic job in choosing two new decal options. And obviously the first echo option is represented on the box illustration, which Luke, I know you worked on a lot for this.
Yeah, so as you've sort of alluded to there, it's the 40th anniversary of the Falklands, so we felt we had to show some sort of action on the box that represented that. And what you can see on there is the strafing of Rio Carcarena by XZ459, I believe, which was Gordy Batt's aircraft, quite a famous name amongst Sea Harrier pilots. So what you can see there is essentially a strafing run, and it caused the ship to be abandoned. It was a munitions ship on its way to one of the ports in the Falklands to resupply. So the captain had to abandon once the fire sort of took hold, but they actually went out after a while, and it was sort of abandoned, but it was eventually sunk by Lynxes using sea skewer missiles. There is a bit of a funny story. There are rumours that it was actually attacked by the Argentines in between that time, so we attacked it, then the Argentines attacked it thinking it was one of ours, and then we sank it. No fatalities as far as I'm aware, so it's quite a nice thing. But it does represent an action in the Falklands, and we felt that was right for the anniversary.
And so, obviously, the box front artwork, how do you choose what scene is depicted on that box front?
So it's sort of availability of information sometimes. You might pick, so there's sort of two schools of thought. You might say, yes, we can represent a certain action, but it's going to show the aircraft and the kit off better if we just do a pretty picture. Adam, our artist, would kill me for saying that. But sort of an artistic view. So you can look at Mosquito sort of flying away with the sunset in the background. It's a beautiful thing, and it sells kits. Sometimes showing real actions doesn't, but there are certain cases where it will. And as long as the information is there, so weather reports, squadron reports from the day, if there are surviving members of that squadron that we can talk to, then we're happy to do it. And that's when you see that little bit of text on the bottom there, and it sort of gives a brief description of what we're trying to represent there.
Yeah.
In this case, we actually spoke to a Sea Harrier pilot in the Falklands, David Morgan, who gave us a bit of information on the box, including the side on which the ship was attacked. So we had a draft image, and the ship was going the wrong way, so we had to get Adam to swap it around. But we try and keep it as accurate as possible. And David said that the weather that day was great, so you'll see it's quite nice on the box. He remembers that because he was ill, and he was quite annoyed that he couldn't go flying. So
really?
it was a great little story.
I can imagine you don't. Yeah, if you're feeling ill, you don't want to go in a plane. That might not end well. So, how much information would you give Adam Tooby when you say, "Oh, look, we've got this new product. We want this on the front"?
Well, it's very easy to go down the rabbit hole and spend a whole day or two sort of researching and talking to people. But from an artist's perspective, Adam doesn't need all of that. So I'll give him sort of the bare minimum in which we can truthfully portray the event. Adam's got lots of things to consider that make a decent image. So I'll give him things such as weather reports. The layouts will be given to him by our decal artist, so that the sort of stickers or artwork on the side will be correct. But apart from that, I'll give him a brief outline, and it comes in sort of an A4 pack, and that's about it. Okay. He'll ask questions as he goes through if there's anything that I haven't sort of addressed in my briefing pack. But yeah.
He sends a number of angle versions, doesn't he? Which is always quite interesting. You end up the whole team huddled around one monitor, obviously socially distanced. Then we're all sort of trying to pick our favourite, and as Luke said, does it show off the weapons that are included in the kit? Are there other areas of the product that we're really trying to show off? We had a lot of people ask us about the Vulcan that we released last year, and that just shows the underbelly. The Vulcan sort of banking, and he said, "Well, why have you done that?" Well, it shows the missile underneath and everything else. So we really wanted to highlight that, and you can clearly see it's a Vulcan. But later releases of that product will have different artwork that will show other bits that come with it or whatever. So,
sorry, with those angles, you'll quite often have to judge it based on the aircraft as well. So as you said, you know the shape of a Vulcan, and no matter where you see a Vulcan from, you know. But there are some aircraft where certain angles work better for them, and you might not know that until you start looking at 4 or 5 that you've been providing. You go, actually, looking at the Meteor, say for example, from behind doesn't give a nice image. So you sort of tend to go to other sort of front-facing or a certain angle for certain aircraft.
We was looking at the Buccaneer artwork, the new Tall Buccaneer artwork the other day, or those angle shots, sort of really basic renders at the time, and with the ship behind and everything else, and then we started talking about flight paths around a ship, didn't we? and is there a set flight path? Should aircraft always fly down the left-hand side, or can they fly? So we do start to go down rabbit holes with it, but it's really important that we get that right. We don't always, but that we do highlight those things.
Yeah. That's where artistic license comes in.
I suppose you've got certain things you've got to think about when it's on the pack and things like that. You mentioned that obviously it's a reintroduction from 10 years ago, isn't it? Yeah. And so does it include new liveries or same liveries that were before, or?
I think they're new, aren't they? Both of them are
new. Both are new for this year, and both are Operation Corporate, so Falkland schemes of differing colours.
Various shades of grey.
50 shades of grey.
Yeah.
How do you choose what livery goes in there? I assume part of it has it been done before, but how do you choose what different liveries you introduce?
We'll look at competitor products, so if there's other FRS ones at this scale or other scales, we try not to repeat it, and you try and find a scheme that's not been kitted, try and bring something unique to the market. But obviously in some cases, so this one where there's an anniversary, there might be more obvious schemes to go with. And at that point, if you're repeating a scheme, it doesn't matter so much because people want to build that scheme, obviously.
So this year is the first time, I believe, that we've started to reissue kits with the original illustration and decal options.
Oh, right.
So previously we've always changed the decal options and we've changed the illustration, and that obviously is a fair bit of resource. Decal design, Adam 2B illustration, you've got to then put that on the pack and everything else. And we know that when we change that, we get a level bite of the cherry, and we sell more to the same people or broaden that audience. This year there's I think there's about a handful or so products that are coming back into the range with the original decal options and the original box artwork, which is quite interesting from a systems point of view, because according to our system that died long ago, and then so then all of a sudden this part number is being brought back to life, and the system going, no, you told me 5 years ago that was it, you weren't going to buy any more of those. So we've never had that before as a brand. So some of the aircraft have been available in a number of options and have had different box artwork. So we're just sort of just closing that circle really, and we will then sort of see how it goes. It's the first time we've ever done it. There's plenty of aftermarket options out there as well. We'll just see how that goes.
It's worth saying, as you sort of mentioned, that it does take up resource. I think it's 4 kits in total that we're sort of straight reissuing with no new box art or schemes. Those wouldn't be able to be brought back to the market if we weren't doing that, because there's only so much in terms of capacity for decal designers, box art, and there's only so much time in the day. They are there, and we feel that they'll obviously sell, and people want those models. But somewhere something has got to give to bring them back, and unfortunately it was those ones.
Something I found interesting at the Spitfire day was you talked about decals and the actual cost of them. Firstly, is it decals or decals?
Both. Tomato.
Decals.
The
schemes.
The cost of them. Because when I've seen them, they might be very small decals, decals. But you said that the cost of getting new ones of those is quite a lot.
Actually, the cost of production of those is not cheap.
Right.
So obviously the artwork cost, depending on the size of aircraft, and Luke knows this better than me, but size of aircraft, and therefore the amount of roundels or whatever we're trying to fit on that sheet. And we try to be as economical as possible by making that sheet as small as possible, but getting as much on without it being a nightmare to cut around them. So we've got the artwork cost, but then the actual print production cost. Yeah, that's quite expensive.
What's it made from?
You
put me on the spot.
Put the lamp straight onto my head there.
You'd have to ask a photograph.
Yeah. So what I do remember, obviously, when Hornby first acquired the Airfix and Humbrol brands, we were moving tools around and trying to get production back up and running in the various countries that our tools were spread across. Hornby's history, obviously, Scale Electric's history of production was here, and then it was moved to China many moons ago. So Airfix went to China because we had contacts, and it was the quickest, easiest way of getting the product back out into the market. But we very quickly became aware that the decal production in China wasn't great. So short of educating them, which would take a long time, and finding new suppliers and everything else, there was a period of time where the decals weren't brilliant in our products. So we just went straight to Cartograph, who are well known for their quality. And we've stuck with them ever since. And the Cartograph logo is on all of our boxes, with the exception of our 35th scale tanks, because they come from another supplier. So other than that, everything's Cartograph. It's all quality. There's nothing worse than sat there for however many hours building a kit and painting it, and you come to sort of the last sort of stages, and then your decals just fall apart in your hands or anything. So
stickers as well.
But in some cases, just go back to your original question about the cost of that sheet. That sheet can be the cost of that could be just as much as the plastic in the product in the kit.
Really?
So
that's just, I suppose, because I'm thinking the size of that compared to the whole kit and things like that. Wow.
So it's a lot. So we tend to just keep the decal schemes, I was going to say as sort of low as possible. That's not right, but in a series one kit you might get one or two decal options. And we base it on the size of that sheet required. So obviously the Harrier here, we've got two decal options. Occasionally we can get a bonus third in. The Chipmunk.
Chipmunk has four.
Chipmunk has four because it uses a lot of common decals. So actually the size of that sheet isn't as big as if I went to sort of four, or I say it's not me, but if we as a business went to sort of four completely different decal options. The Swordfish there has got two decal options. So then as you go up in our series, we tend to add a few more. And previous releases, we've stock is a bit slow in moving through our warehouse. We might add another decal sheet in just to add that bonus scheme in. It works well for us.
Yes.
So one of the areas where, as picking the schemes, I'm terrible. I always want to include as many as I can. I have to get reined in by the business-minded people. There's so many aircraft notable aircraft that you want to put in the kit. That there's only so many you can put in.
Yeah, of course. And you.
I was going to say the Chipmunk. One thing that we had last year with the release of the 48 scale Chipmunk was the spelling error on step here.
Oh, really?
So it said step heap.
Right.
It's basically where the R, that leg of the R, had fallen off on the actual aircraft. So we replicated that on our decals, and then everyone went, "Oh no, you spelt here incorrectly." Well, yes, it is, but actually, if you went and saw that aircraft, that's exactly how it is. So there was a step here decal that you could use instead.
Oh, okay. That's good, though, that
But
you
we
give
did
that.
we did include it, just you know, and there are occasionally little things like that. But obviously, consumers don't always.
No, not everyone.
recognise it.
Yeah, no one's going to recognise it. But for the person that does, it's quite a good little a nugget.
Especially the aircraft owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been meaning to draw a little R for years. Airfix have come along and replicated it.
So you mentioned the swordfish. So shall we have a little chat about the swordfish?
Yes.
Here we go. 1/72 scale swordfish, and this is literally just come out, right? It's like
Yeah, so the stock of this arrived last week, I want to say,
Right.
late last week. So again, pretty hot. Stock's already started to go out of the business, as you can imagine. We don't hold on to it here long. I want to try and churn it out as quick as possible. So this one was announced this year as part of the range. It's a reissue of a Hornby era tooling. It's been seen in various guises again, just like the Harrier has. But this weekend is the 80th anniversary of the Channel Dash, so it felt right again to bring that product back. Change the decal option. I don't think we've done H before, have we?
We have done it. We've shown it in different camo schemes. So there's sort of two schools of thought on the aircraft that actually took part in the Channel Dash. Some people think that they were hurriedly painted black before heading out because the attack was meant to happen at night, which it wasn't. It was sort of around midday because it took us by surprise, essentially. But other people believe it was the normal sort of camo scheme that you'd see, and we've shown it in both previously. But the decal options, obviously, the first one is Esmond's aircraft. And the second one is a pre-war Swordfish. So it's not entirely a Channel Dash boxing, unlike the Harrier, which was both Falkland schemes. So you do get a pre-war scheme in there as well. But as Dale said, it's another nice thing to commemorate, and that's what the box art does. It shows the Channel Dash.
It's really impressive.
Yeah.
It's a really well done box run, I think.
So we're always looking at anniversaries when we're planning ranges, trying to work out what should go in next from a reissue point of view, from a new tooling point of view. One of the areas that we look at is anniversaries. Sort of can make our life easier. We're making a conscious decision not to whack a year on the front of the box now as well, just in case we've still got that stock kicking around after a year or two of that original anniversary. But it can steer us, or does steer us, with some of our releases. And it makes perfect sense to bring the FRS 1 back for the Falklands this year and the Swordfish. We previously brought this out as a double, sort of like a dogfight double. No, it was a Swordfish and a Spitfire, wasn't it?
Yeah, sort of
gift set. So now it's available as the classic. So new box artwork.
I really like the second livery there.
Pre-war.
It's obviously not depicted on there, but it's quite interesting.
A lot of people think that it was done at night, but of course the weather was just absolutely dreadful. So,
oh really? Yeah, because that box front. If you looked at a glance at that, you didn't know.
You'd think it was
at night.
Yeah, it was very overcast, and the sea was quite rough on the day. So, it does look almost night-time-ish.
I'm absolutely terrified of
I don't know how
tidal waves.
They were quite brave people.
Yeah.
I think 18 crew went out there and only 5 survived the attack. So it's quite I don't know.
They've not got
humbling, really.
They've not got a canopy over the top of there.
No. And so these planes were sort of outdated at the time of the attack, so 1942, and they were up against Focke-Wulf 190s and 109s. Apparently, at the time of the attack, the Swordfish was so slow that the 190s were sort of queuing up behind to do their strafing run, and they had their wings, the wheels down and the flaps down to stay slow enough so they could get an attack in and not sort of shoot past them.
Oh wow!
Absolutely crazy.
There was no damage really done to the ships these 6 aircraft sort of set off from Manston knowing that the chance of survival was slim to none, really. But it was sort of seen that where the enemy is, we have to attack them.
You couldn't just let them come up through the channel and the Germans up through the channel and not take that opportunity, really. Bloody brave people. So,
And it might be putting you on the spot here. Why is it called Swordfish? Is it a particular reason why it's called the Swordfish?
Fairey had sort of a tradition of naming it after different animals.
Right.
So it sort of follows that ilk, really. Yeah.
That's a cool name. Yeah. So that one's
available now?
Probably be on some people's workbenches pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I hope so. Yeah. If you've pre-ordered it for our retailers or our own website, then I haven't checked that that stock is on its way. Cool. So just in time for this weekend.
Nice. And then we've got some tanks as well, haven't we? That new releases.
Yep. So so we've got the Japanese Type 27 Shiha vintage classic, and then the Joseph Stalin JS3 tank. Both haven't been seen in the range for a few years, 2012 and 2011. So it felt right for them to be brought back into the range. And as with all of the majority of our vintage classic products, I say majority because obviously we've got quite a range of 76 scale armour sat there that will continue. The majority of the new vintage classics products will be limited runs,
right?
But we don't say that on the box just to give us the option. If it goes particularly well, then we can do another run of it. So I expect these two products to sit in the range for a year or so. We'll do one production hit and then just to see how they go. Our export market might take them up a little bit more. We might do another production run, and then they'll come out the range. So unlike our crocodiles and bits and pieces that will continue to sit in our range under the vintage classic banner. And obviously the vintage classics this year, the last few years since they were that range was introduced, have gone down very well. It's great to be able to split that tooling off and have a separate range where we're not trying to, I say hoodwink people, we were never trying to hide it originally, but just to have that sort of nostalgia feel. And on the top of every one of these boxes from our vintage classic range, we list when the tools were originally made. So 1974 in the Shiha's case.
1962.
And then the pack illustration. So in this case, Roy Cross. Is that Roy Cross as well? So Roy Cross, and then the year. So that's we know that a lot of people are buying these and we'll never make them, but they're buying them for the box art.
That's I was going to say the difference in the vintage classic box art to now. When did they kind of change from hand drawn?
So Airfix has seen a number of box styles over the years, some far better than others. Some of them are absolutely dreadful.
Which one?
When in my first stint here, I was part of the team that transitioned from the original grey. Original grey Hornby boxes, silk grey, silver boxes that had this sort of original artwork over to the new Adam Tooby digital illustrations. And the decision at the time was to everything we released then has a lovely shiny red box, a wonderful digital illustration by Adam Tooby or someone else, and then that's how we sell our products. And then and that was received well, but some of our vintage tooling, we didn't feel comfortable in releasing that in a shiny red box with a brand new illustration because it just confuses the market. And if you're a modeller in the know, you'll likely know that this is from 1974. If you're not, and it's you're first or second, third, fourth kit or whatever, and you go from one of our new tool products, because you won't have a clue if it is a new tool product, to one of these, you might be a bit disappointed. So a couple of years ago, the decision was made to split sort of pre-Hornby era tooling off to the Vintage Classic range, and it's managed slightly differently.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, they're sort of limited runs unless it goes really well for us, and then we can essentially do a sort of 5 to 10 year plan for them. So anything that's sort of come out relatively recently, you won't see back in a Vintage Classic range for 5-10 years or so, or if there's an anniversary or something like that, we might decide to bring it back just for that.
It's quite interesting then that, because these are exactly the same as they were in the 1960s, 1970s, if you've got, I don't know, a parent or something like that and a kid, they can experience the same kit to a certain extent.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing that the tooling is that old.
Yeah.
You sort of go, oh, it's older than me. Oh, it's twice my age. Or, hang on a minute, that's older than my dad. So that's quite cool. But some of these products, and we always check the tools before we go into mass production.
Yeah.
So we're whether the tooling is here, we have a good idea of its last production quality.
Yeah.
Whether that was within Hornby's reign or before, whether it's any good or not, and then we'll ship that tooling over to India, and then we'll do some proper testing over there. And if it isn't any good, then we have to very quickly decide to put a different product in the range.
Are you looking for? Is that kind of if it wasn't good enough, it might just be. It might have any detail on it, or it might be like the person might be, not have any limbs, one piece or something like that.
They wear down over time, so there might be aspects, detail might start disappearing, but the mould might fail. When you put this pressure in, it might not work at all, and you might end up with sort of this blob of plastic instead. So unfortunately, they do wear out. They're not sort of permanent. You won't forever have a tool. So even new products like the Spitfire, they will run out eventually. A long way yet, but they will run out. So,
And I guess, have they changed the way they make tooling from?
Definitely. It's come on leaps and bounds without going into specifics. The quality is, in terms of detail, is so much more now, but also robustness of the tooling as well, and sort of the quality of the construction is a lot better.
We're constantly pushing our tool makers to get better as well. Pressures from our competitors, and actually some recent first test shots, new tooling test shots we've received without naming the product. There's only a handful of new tool products coming out this year. We're really happy about. They do seem to have gone up a gear, which is great. So, but we're still always pushing them.
It's sort of going on from that as well. There's talking about vintage classics and what makes a vintage classic. We were talking about Hornby era tooling being in red boxes, and sort of Roy Cross and other artists of the 60s and 70s being a vintage classic. There is an in between that we struggle with as a business, because vintage classics is a nostalgic thing. And there's more modern kits that we don't feel comfortable putting in a red box because the quality isn't there. It's not as good as we'd expect for a new tool or something made in the last 10 years. So there's this weird in-between category where it doesn't fall into vintage classics, but we're not comfortable putting it out. And there's a few that fall within that.
So the few that come to mind off the top of my head is when Hornby acquired the Airfix brand, things like the lifeboat was pre-Hornby design. The 48 scale TSR2, I believe, was as well. The TSR2 was originally brought out in 48 scale in a grey box with Adam Tooby illustration. It was one of the first. So if we were to ever bring that back, what do we do? So it's never had a Roycross or painted illustration. That has only ever had an Adam 2B, but it was in a grey box. That, if we were to ever bring that back, it would be in a red box likely. The lifeboat, which has just come out of our range again, and it's just doing its usual cycle. It'll come back in a few years' time, I have no doubt. We kept that in its red box because it was only ever really known within the Hornby era.
The one that comes to mind for me is Nimrod, which sort of is a bit different in that it never made it to a red box as far as I'm aware.
Or a digital illustration.
No, so that was sort of one of the last ones that was hand drawn and in a grey box.
Yeah.
I think maybe in Hornby's.
It was, that was
in
Hornby,
so that's the one that comes to mind when I say the in-between group. That's
Yeah.
not quite there in terms of quality for us.
Do you ever do like commemorative, like a new box or a new kit that has hand drawn? Would you ever consider?
Yeah,
doing
that's an interesting idea. Never say never. Yeah.
Funny little fact, I did my dissertation about Stalin.
Oh, nice.
Well, no, it wasn't. But it was interesting as a subject to do it. It was very, very horrible man.
Yeah. Like, one thing I don't think we touched on was that obviously these two are coming out, but also the accompanying infantry.
They're out. These arrived in the warehouse this week, again, they're out. But
yeah, so the Russian and Japanese infantry are also coming this year, so they match up quite nicely with the two tanks.
Again, it's one of those, we want to bring the tanks back. Well, you've got to bring the figures back in 76 scale as well. Would we have brought those figures back without the tanks? Most probably not. And then we'll just see how the sales go. We most probably just stop the production run there and rest it again for a few years. But the figures aren't due out for a good few months yet, so the tanks have arrived already.
That's right. You can build your tanks and then.
There's plenty more in the range that you can build up.
Alright then, brilliant. Alright, shall we talk about some news then?
Yeah.
So, you wanted to have a chat about the new Airfix club.
Yeah, so last time is flying by. Again, the pun is dreadful, but I can never remember what day it is. But as I said, there's so much going on. So I think the last week or so, we were finally in a position to release the 2022 Airfix Club after some supply, not difficulties. It's more sort of production and timings and bits and pieces. We had to delay everyone's club expiry from, I think it was July last year till the end of January this year for those members that were due to expire during that period, because we just couldn't get this in quick enough on top of everything else that we were bringing in. So, but I'm pleased to say that we've got a good number of these in now. We've got some more coming in. That's how fast the club is growing for us as a business. It's a double pairing, so you get two Hawk T1s in the box. Both with its first and last decal schemes. I don't know, Luke, I think you know far more about the decal schemes than I do. This aircraft is in Boscombe Down somewhere, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, based at Boscombe Down, sort of one of the original Hawk T1s, and it, as you say, it wears the first and the last scheme that airframe ever wore. It's currently in its later scheme, the ETPS one at Boscombe Down. I believe we were helped quite a bit by the owners when getting details.
Yeah, we're in contact with the owners. I think Michael Clegg's going to try to get down there soon to write some articles and take some more photos and get you guys down there to do some video or whatever. But so if you sign up to the club now, then you'll receive the famous red box. And that will include the double pack of Hawks here.
Remove before assembly here.
The brand new remove before assembly tag. You see what we did then?
Yeah, so I
clever.
Yeah, so
That's marketing for you.
I saw these before we went to Duxford, and then I saw the actual, obviously.
Oh, the ones plugged into
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Oh, that's quite interesting.
Oh, that's what they've done. Oh, yeah.
No, smart. Nice.
So you'll get the Hawks, you'll get the new key ring, welcome letter, a poster in there, and a couple of stickers this year, and we aim to change that up again in a year's time. We already know what we're gonna.
We already know.
We already know what we're gonna do for the club kit next year. So we are a little bit more prepared for that, and squeezing the production running far sooner than we were able to do with the Hawks. But yeah, in the last week, we've had a huge number of sign-ups to the club, which is just fantastic to see as the industry. And then we've so far, at the point of filming this, we're still trying to sort out the rest of the world version.
Right.
So at the moment, only UK club members can sign up. But I hope by the time this video goes out, we will have a solution with the rest of the world. Unfortunately, without saying the B word, Brexit, that has caused businesses a number of issues. And for us, it's all about shipping goods abroad that are essentially free. Because people pay for the membership, the cost for the membership, and then they get all this stuff free. So customs people don't like that.
No.
So we're having to find a solution that sort of ticks those boxes. So the rest of the world members can sign up and experience all the goodies. And then my team are working on really improving the club this year with exclusive sort of money can't buy competitions. Nice. Signed product. I think the next one we've got going out is some Adam Tooby signed artwork with the product. I can't see running around the office with product, getting the team to sign it. We plan to get some VIPs to sign bits and pieces.
I went on to a Type 45 and got one of our model kits signed by all the officers. The commanding officer and weapon systems operator, and that was sort of one of the prizes for
that's gone out.
So it makes it a little more special and giving back to people.
Why he was on a Type 45 when we have the kit already? It's just a complete, everyone says, he's out for a jolly. Well, in this case, he really was out for a jolly.
Perks of the job, that one.
But then next, he's taking photos of one of our new carriers in the background.
Yeah.
So that
I will say I was in the morning doing work elsewhere.
It's all work. It's all relationship building. It's great. So I think we did put your photos up, and that obviously got a lot of people talking about
work.
Yeah, technically work.
1/35th scale. 350th scale.
350.
I'm sure there's probably a fair few at home that are very jealous of you. Very jealous. So how do you pick a kit that goes into the club? Like, what makes it different? How do you kind of go, right, that's the one we want exclusive?
Previously, it's been focused on decal schemes,
right.
And sort of doing stuff that maybe we wouldn't be comfortable in a classic kit, but it brings, say, a different operator to that club member. So sort of captured Spitfires, captured Messerschmitts, stuff that there's potentially stronger schemes for a classic kit, but little oddities that are different and you can't buy on the aftermarket. So sort of providing that, I think there's a real push with the new club to bring more interesting models, stuff that's sort of exclusive rather than just decal schemes.
So looking at new parts that haven't been seen in the main range before, but then we've got that difficult decision to juggle. Do we put it in the main range and we'll sell more, and commercially that makes more sense, or do we put it as the club kit, and it'd be a fantastic club kit, but then financially it doesn't quite level out. So we believe we found a good balance next year for next year's kit. And then we will continue to look at exclusive products. We haven't been able to bring, other than the actual kit itself, that you get when you sign up. We've not been able to do any other exclusive products at the moment, and despite my pestering with various people in the team, the problem we always have is production capacity. So do I want to take something out of the main catalogue, or to put something special in for the club where I know I won't do the same volumes, and I always have to go to that sort of commercial space and go, well, I need to make the money over there. Yeah. So we are looking at a couple of products, not necessarily kits, that will just be that little exclusive. We've also toyed with the idea of sort of first chance products as well. So main sort of catalogue products that our club members perhaps only get a week or two first chance to buy type things. We've not done anything like that yet. We've just not felt that we've had the right product to do it with yet. And also, we want to look after our retailers, and we just feel that just wouldn't sit right.
It's a balancing act, isn't it, of different factors? But
I have to. If I can't make that decision, I'd go over to the commercial side and go, right, okay, look at the numbers, and that will then just decide it for me, which is a shame. But but on a positive, this is all now available. We're getting some really good numbers on renewal rates and new club member sign-ups. Memberships are a 12-month period. So this time next year, when a huge number of people now will renew, then hopefully renew, if they've enjoyed all the features and benefits and flying hours passports that you can claim and everything else, then they'll receive another new exclusive kit, and we'll sort of go from there, really. Don't break it, Mike, will you?
No, I'll try not to. I really like the black and gold on this livery.
Yes, actually, Poundjet modelled these two.
Oh, nice.
He tends to get first dibs of stuff coming through the office.
The sheer speed he does things in. I mean, how many Hellcats has he?
I don't know how many Hellcats he did. That's before my time. But he's always got a lot on.
Yeah, he's got a few Spitfires and a few Buccaneers, hasn't he? On the go at the moment. Most people will only ever build one of them, and it will take them a year.
I think he's building 3 or 4 Spits, and
he's got a load of T51 Mustangs as well.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's got like a fleet of them.
Well, which is fair play. I mean, the 3 of us went up to Telford last year, which is great. Unfortunately, as a brand, we couldn't exhibit. Our rules as a business is no exhibitions like that. This financial year, so that takes us to the end of March. But I managed to bend a couple of people's arms, and the 3 of us went up there for a couple of days, and we actually extended it by a night, a week before we went up, and that was great. And I haven't got I've got a good sized car, but it's not a transit van. And Poundjet was genuinely worried that it wouldn't be able to fit his new collection of kits in. And when he buys the big ships constantly, Poundjet, you're going to have to lay on this stuff in the back of the car.
It didn't take much tempting to Poundjet, buy that kit, and he didn't put up much of a fight.
No, he was good. He was good about it all, though. It was good. And then we started sending him messages, photos of stuff that we'd see around the show. And turned up with it in a bag. So I gave him my car keys in the end. He was just loading my car up. I wasn't even there.
So he'd go home and then come back when you've unloaded it.
But
it's
he's
impressive.
great.
Especially someone that's just started kind of painting and modelling, things like that. To see someone, how far you can get if you just sort of stick with it and stuff like that. And I'm probably very lucky that I have a wealth of information.
The whole team you walk past every morning.
Oh, do you mind if I?
It's Mike again.
Yeah. Go away, Mike. I'm sick of it. So that's all available now. Go online. Airfix.
Airfix.com. Look for the club logo and you'll be able to sign up if it takes your fancy.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's the 2022 club. Let's talk a little bit about the range launch as a whole for 2022? Because it was your first range launch day
Since I've been back.
since you've been back.
Yeah,
and
very
I'm assuming
different
that-
since I was last here.
Yeah, I
So-
can imagine 8 years ago you probably wouldn't have had YouTube premieres and things like that.
No.
And showing off products, not getting people in, because obviously pandemic meant we had to switch to
yeah.
filming of it and things like that. And that's, I like it, obviously being involved in video and things like that. I think it gives a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
How do you think it went? Because it was your first time in front of camera doing all that, and you said earlier you inherited the range to a certain degree, so
Well, no,
brushing
completely.
yourself up.
It's a beautiful range, but there's I can take absolutely no credit for any of it. That's all Darryl. God bless him, and then and the rest of the team. So how did the range launch go? I think it went really well.
Just start with your experience of filming.
My experience of filming. Me and Nath behind the camera here today just sat in the showroom for a whole day without the heating on, because we couldn't work out how to put that on.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely freezing.
I think it got sorted the week after.
Then someone put some new batteries in the thermostat, we couldn't have had it on anyway. It's too loud. But literally a whole day in there freezing. Then trying to talk about products that I don't know a huge amount about it. Their actual history. So trying to learn as much as possible from Luke and the team, and features that have been designed and everything else. So then stand in front of a camera without a script to read off, and or an auto prompt that other brand managers in the business were allowed to be given. No, thanks very much for that.
I guess
was
the thing
quite a
is,
challenge.
Anyone might be able to talk about one or two, particular subjects, but then if you have to say we're popping the camera on and you're going to talk about 30 different things, go off, you're obviously gonna. That's not an easy thing for anyone.
I didn't find it natural at all.
No.
But we managed to do it. I felt the afternoon was better, but of course the magic of editing. I know what I did in the morning and did in the afternoon. I wish I reshot some stuff.
Luckily you don't have to watch that. You won't.
But yeah, we got there in the end, and that video has done really well. I think the other day I looked and it done 160,000, 170,000 views.
It's great. It gives people a chance to see as much as we've got.
Yeah. And we went live at 4 o'clock on the Monday with our range.
Yeah.
We had the video premiered for 4 o'clock. Then at 3:30, our web team went live with everything, which was always the plan, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just to try and deal with any bugs or traffic.
Yeah.
That went live at 3:30, which was the third brand to go live that day.
Yeah.
So it had already gone through the Hornby traffic.
Yep.
Which was continuing actually throughout the day, and then the Scale Electric traffic. Then we went out at 4 o'clock, which at first I was really annoyed about, but actually it was a really good time to go live.
Yeah, the Hornby one was very early.
Yeah.
I think.
So at 3:30, when everything went live and we knew it was all stable and there wasn't too much that needed editing, which of course we do live with the site anyway, we decided to premiere it 15 minutes earlier. And
because people were waiting.
So we jumped in the chat as the team, and we were chatting to people before the premiere and then during, and then straight after I went and jumped on a couple of other YouTube channels. And they were doing a sort of live talk of it all, which was a bit weird watching them talk about watching me whilst I was then sat there. So it's like a fourth wall within a fourth wall. It was all very weird, but so that was great to be able to interact with them on the day.
It's really nice that you get instant sort of feedback, and you get to see what people like, and from what we've seen, people seem to really enjoy the range, which is great.
Site didn't crash.
No, site didn't crash, which is always
which is great.
Yeah.
The team, our website team, really managed that very well.
Yeah.
So it slowed down on a couple of points. The traffic really did did increase around the 4 o'clock mark.
Yeah.
Especially after that video had premiered, which I think was about 10-15 minutes long anyway, so around the 4 o'clock mark. But the team were prepped for it, so it was great. I think it was one of the first range launches in the last few years that we've not had a crashed website. So and then Brooke, the social media team, had all the posts lined up, so we was able to sort of then roll those out. So even if the site had crashed,
you still had that.
Thankfully it didn't. Then we would have still had the video and had things on social and then trickled stuff out afterwards. But of course, the day before that, we had the Spitfire announcement up at Duxford, which was great. So that all came about. Duxford just approached us and said, we're putting 12 Spitfires, 11 of them airworthy, into our hangar. Do you want to come down and do something? We're sort of like, well, yes.
Too much a coincidence.
Yes, please. So then Luke just went, why don't you do the big Spitfire there?
There was no original plan to launch it there, was there? It was sort of, we were going to give a talk, and it sort of dawned on us that, well, we've got 12 Spitfires in a hall. When are we going to ever have a better opportunity to launch a product?
Yeah, it was great because the people that were there got to be those first ones to hear it and experience it, and it was something quite special for them. To say they got to be there for that launch of that product.
It was always, there was a lot of people saying, they're going to announce something. They're going to actually. the original idea was just not to. It was just to talk about what we do in the design and research process and everything else. And then, well, hang on a minute, we could wheel the Spitfire out and show that. So. You was there, right? He was at the back filming. And
it was a really fun. I mean, obviously Airfix has done at Telford and things like that, reveals and things like that. But there was something a bit special about being there, and then after having revealed it as well, and obviously people listening to you guys, but then being able to come down and see the real thing, and then talk to the team about it and see firsthand before anyone else gets to.
That's something that is really nice about launching a product in front of people. And it's something I think as a team we've missed. Is we thrive off of people asking us questions about the product we've worked 2 years on, as a team. So it's great when people question us and want to know more. And it was just great to have 100 people plus the people in the museum that day asking about the product and really wanting to sort of know how we've come about and designed that.
I must admit, it was weird. Obviously, since the last couple of years with COVID kicking around, I'm used to standing up on a stage and talking to a bunch of people, and it's my first time doing it back on Airfix for obviously a long old time, and it's my first time of doing it where people sat there wearing masks. So we put the Spitfire video up, and it's moody shots and everything else, and people sort of sat there just wearing their mask, and I'm looking up going, I have no idea whether this is going down well or not. And then it sort of ended, and you can sort of tell people going, is that new? What is that? And then I sort of just went, brand new Mark 9 Spitfire 124 scale, and so that went really well, really positive. Something that we certainly look to do again. Maybe can't promise a range launch, a product launch every time. There's absolutely no way we could have organised 11 airworthy Spitfires in one hangar ourselves. It was just coincidence that the team at Duxford were already doing that, and they approached us, which obviously we're quite friendly with the guys down there anyway. So it seems to have all gone very well.
I mean, the people at home can probably
you judge that. Thumbs up.
But I think it's just a really good way. I don't think every company does it. Every whatever you're interested in, being able to show off, talk, and get more of a connection with your audience and things, it's way better. I mean, we spoke before that it would be amazing to do it live. You probably wouldn't be happy about having to do the things for each kit, but being able to be live and talk to your audience and engage with the community and stuff is a really interesting.
I think it's something that sets us apart as a brand. Is you know, Airfix is sort of held. We're a household name, really, especially due to our history in the 60s and 70s, and people sort of hold us dear as a brand.
Yeah.
And we like to repay that by engaging with the community, because without them, we'd be nothing.
Yeah, our key thing is being approachable, really. Whether that's here, if you rock up at a visitor centre, whether you were at an air show or you bump into one of us in a museum. Luke might not like that if he's trying to scan something that trying to keep secret, but we're all very approachable, and you know, within reason, we will answer any questions that we can. Obviously, there's always things that we can't talk about, but and I've missed that actually in the last 8 years not being here. So Duxwood was great, and then jumping on the social media channels and YouTube and sort of being able to sit there and talk. It's great fun, and I can't wait to we're not sure yet whether we'll be able to do events this year. But I'm continuing to push, so hopefully we will, and then we can start to get back out there in front of the people, which is great.
So we spoke a little bit about the launch of the Spitfire, so I think it's only fitting that we actually delve a little bit deeper into this big hitter for 2022.
Yeah.
So you brought along with you
I have
some test shots, so Dan, if you want to...
As if by magic.
Yeah. I think we've got enough room on the table, I think, for the scale.
Got enough.
So you brought
a couple
and the magic hand of Nathan going in there with the moving some boxes around. Right, that'll do.
There you go.
So, we were prepared.
Okay, so firstly, I'm going to start with why. Why the Spitfire in 1/24 scale?
It's iconic. The old tooling has done us well. 1970 tooling, and it's still in the range as a vintage classic. So they sell. People want to build a Spitfire. The next question, I suppose, is why a 9C rather than any other? Well, we started off with the one previously, and the later Mark Spitfire is something we wanted to investigate. The 9 is sort of, I think, the perfect middle ground between the utility of the later marks of Spitfire and sort of the beauty of the original design, and that's sort of why we've landed there. As a stopgap aircraft, it lasted for a long time. It was used well after the war, so the history's there. The shape, obviously, with the Spitfires there, so it's a no-brainer, really.
And how long ago? So you wouldn't have been here, but how long will it take you from going, right, we want to do a Spitfire, we want to do that 1/24, through to actually...
Yeah, so it's difficult from that point of view. So to give you a bit an idea, what we're early Feb 2022 now.
Yep.
We've pretty much just nailed down what we're going to do for 2023.
Yeah.
And there's new tooling then planned also for 2024.
Okay.
So in terms of how far we're planning, it's really a case of Chris, the designer of this, when his time can be scheduled in. We're trying to work off a sort of a 5-year plan with most of our products, so we can plan that far ahead and tie other subject matter into it, whether that's a re-release or a vintage classic or whatever. And there's nothing really stopping us from doing that, apart from just time and all the other fun stuff going on. So I think it took Chris 2 years in pure design. So opening the CAD software through to sending it off to the tool maker. It was 2 years at that point, and then of course it's engineering the tooling through. So I don't know, but it's
we're on second shots now. We're likely to go to 4, maybe 5 shots, and each time you're making sort of incremental changes to the tooling to make it a better build, a better fit. So it by no means finished design and then you see it on the shelves.
Yeah.
It's a long process between that and seeing it in the red box. So yes, it's a long process, but it's due to hit
September, I think, at the moment. September, all things being well, and that yeah, I know, and that obviously that engineering the tooling through can take anywhere from sort of 6 months to another 12 months, depending on obviously how it's all going. Obviously, this is just like all of our other products, something that we must get right. Yeah. So if we have to do another set of test shots with another set of changes, we will, and that date will just have to be pushed back. We're not going to rush it going into production. And once that tooling's done, then we ship the tool to India, and then and production can start. But yeah.
So for everyone at home that may not kind of know, you said test shots and things like that, and how that development works, is this one piece? Is it the pieces moulded and then stuck together? How is it made? What is a test shot of a model?
So a test shot is a plastic kit. So it's essentially in the form that the end user would have, a bit less polished in places. So it is 433 parts or whatever we've ended up with part count wise, and Chris or whoever is test building it will have to build it as a consumer would.
Right.
And that sort of helps us develop the instruction process.
Yep.
So the designer will sort of have an idea of where they're going with the instructions, but not until you get the finished parts do you start to tweak it. So these guys building a 24 scale kit without any instructions, they do that quite regularly, but it's a nightmare. It's only through repeated builds can you sort of refine it. So that's one part of it. A test shot is essentially the factory or tool shop in China has made the tool, the piece of metal that the plastic gets injected into, and it's the first run from that tool.
Right.
And so when we say test shot 2, that metal that forms the cavities for the mould will have been altered in some way, material taken away, material added on, which is a lot more difficult than taking away. And it's that incremental process. So some products will be done in 2 shots. We'll get the second sets and go, this is ready to go to the market. Yeah. And in some, such as a 24 scale kit, there's just so much that can go wrong or need tweaks. Yeah. That it's a lot longer process, and you might send a list of 100 things to change. 90 might get changed. So you're then asking them to change those 10 because it's not an acceptable rate to say, oh, you've done them, that's fine. Yeah. You have to get everything perfect or near enough that you can. So a test shot is essentially just the plastic run off that mould before it then goes out to wherever it's getting produced. That's a test shot.
So obviously here we've got some smaller sections of the Spitfire which show off the unbelievable detail that's actually in the cockpit and things like that, which is, I guess, the best thing about the 1/24 scale is that you can get all of that inside the model.
Yeah. It's great that you can do these as sort of separate little models because of the way the kit's assembled. From the bulkhead forward, you can assemble the engine or the little cockpit tub that you can assemble, and that's necessitated by the wing root fillet that you can see sort of down here where the wings attach. If we didn't create this little tub, then you just see the gaps into the wings. Right. So you have to do this sort of separate skin, but it does make for a great build experience because you can do it almost in sections.
Yeah, really like the piping in the engine there.
Yeah.
We know that many of our consumers will take this and then go and buy a ton of extra parts and really detail it up even more, which is great if that's what you want from modelling. But that's all very personal preference. Yeah. But there's an absolute ton of detail in this and several variants within the same kit as well, Luke. So I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely. How many options have you got for the Spitfire?
So the 9's quite a complicated beast, as I found out sort of when I joined Airfix. It should almost be 3 different variants rather than just being called a 9. So the 9 is the mark. The C refers to the wing. So I should probably say that we are doing a C-winged 9 and only a C-wing at this point. Mainly because the way the model's tooled up is this little blocked off cannon here is moulded on. So it doesn't take much modelling ability to change it to an E-wing with a few other changes, but we are doing a C-wing. In terms of parts that change, one of the most obvious ones on the 9 is the cannon breeches. So if I grab this one, you'll see the cannon breech, this part above the gun here. That's essentially allows room for the gun within the cavity, that you can sort of see that little feed.
Okay,
on the earlier ones, the plan was to use both sets of cannons on the wing. So instead of this little nub here, they'd have both. So you had a wider breech blister, and then after working with the Spitfire, they realised that it wasn't really used in operation, so they went down to the single cannon in each wing there, and that's why you've got the narrow breech blister. You've also got the two different tail types, so you've got what we call the broad chord on this one, and then the sort of rounded earlier one on the other Spitfire there. Sort of an early and late 9 differential between them. So you'll see early ones with the rounded tail, later ones with the broad chord, but that's not a hard and fast rule. That can change. You've also got different rudder balance, elevator balance. So you'll see a sort of 45-degree split here, but on the later ones, they sort of cut out there. So different options there. You've also got the options for clipped wings. So you'll see here, clipped wing, and then normal wingtips on the other one.
I was going to ask about the clipped wings actually. So what's the significance of clipped wing and non?
Clipped wing
why would...
allowed for a sort of a smaller turning radius. Sometimes you see 9s being called an LF9, which means sort of low-level fighter. And some people assume that then means that the clipped wings appear, but it's not always the case. It's sort of a difference in engines. In terms of sort of differences between 9s, you have like an F9, which is what we've assumed is an earlier 9, with wider cannon breeches, earlier rudder. You've got LF9 and HF9 with different versions of the Merlin, but all very similar. So I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there.
Can you just do a Mark 9C?
And that's not mentioning the differences in the cockpit. So there are, and I know this from experience, there's lots of differences within the cockpit in terms of instruments, bits onto the cockpit wall, and that changes with the engine being used, for example, different intakes. Again, that's something I didn't mention on the exterior. This is how detailed the kit is. The earlier 9s didn't have, they had a smaller sort of stubby carb air intake, and on later ones you had the Aero V longer thing. So if I turn this around, this is the smaller one.
I don't know if this is the longer one or is it the...
This is the longer one here. Obviously without the bottom panel at the moment. So difference is there.
Wheels down and wheels up.
So I guess that then, because there's so many variants of one kit, that gives you particularly more options for decals. And certainly, there's 4 decal options with this kit. Trying to find options that each utilise different parts of the kit. So, can you find a decal option with clipped wings that's got the broad tail or whatever it is? So, this is one of your first projects when you started.
This was my first project. So, thrown in the deep end a bit, I joined at the stage where we 3D print the aircraft, and one of the parts that was really lacking was the cockpit. So, hence why I was a bit passionate about that. And my second job was finding the schemes that we were going to put the aircraft into, and at this sort of scale we know that it's really a guide because people are going to go and buy aftermarket sets if they so wish, but the great thing about the Spitfire is it attracts enthusiasts that are going to do that, but also the sort of average buyer, someone that maybe doesn't have much modelling ability. So they will use these schemes, which is a nice thing for me because I haven't wasted my time picking them. So yeah, I've tried to sort of show different variants and use the tooling. So different breech blisters, the enlarged elevator balance, bits like that, the smaller carb air intake. So there's 4 schemes in the kit, and as well as using the bits, we've tried to represent different countries and nations within that. So you've got a RAF aircraft that was flown by a Greek Rhodesian ace. You've got another RAF, but it's Canadian squadron. You've got an American, and you've got a French squadron. So you've really got a breadth of operators in there, which hopefully it appeals to someone. They're all unique in their own way. My favourite is the D scheme, as we call it, the French scheme, just because it's so different, and that uses the clip wings. The one part we haven't used in the kit, decal options, is the broad chord tail, but it is available as part of the kit. And that's simply because there were schemes out there that used them, but there were stronger schemes that we felt should be included. So people can build schemes with broad chord tails, but we haven't done that.
No, I guess as we will treat this just like we do every release within our range. You know, we will sit in the range now for the next few years. Hopefully, it all goes well with these schemes, and then we may decide then to rest it. And then when it comes back, because there are so many scheme options, it will come back. We spoke earlier about decal options and box artwork. This will come back with 4 or so different schemes with another amazing box illustration. And it will just live its life constantly, changing like that every few years or so, which is great because I'm sure Luke's already got the next 4 decal options that he wants to include. So yeah, I mean, and obviously the Spitfire lends itself to that.
Yeah, definitely. There are sort of thousands of aircraft and airframes that you could pick from, and yeah, the next 4 are sort of on the list somewhere. There were some that didn't make it this time, and it sort of goes back to one of the earlier questions on the Harrier. How do you pick the schemes? It's availability of information. So there's some great Lend-Lease aircraft that went over to Russia that would have been fantastic to see, especially with the Russian Spitfire in civil. It's being flown around by the guys at North Weald, I believe. So that would have been great, but it just didn't have enough photo references to do the scheme.
We spoke yesterday when we was doing our little test for this, because would you believe it, we did we did try and it was only about 10 minutes long, not whatever this is going to be, but hopefully you find it interesting. But we spoke yesterday about how you came to the first scheme, which I didn't know about. So go on, go for it. So if
Nathan's got the close-up camera,
I was going to ask that.
This is my mug here.
Conveniently.
Sorry, cameraman. There you go. So that's my mug.
Tell us about the mug.
My mug it was my dad's mug actually. He bought it about 10 years ago from a shop. And it sat in the cupboard, was used for tea, like most. And so I started at Airfix, and I thought my first Airfix was quite a special thing for me. I thought, I'm going to get myself a mug. And I saw it in the cupboard, and I thought, well, that's perfect. I'm starting at Airfix, I've got my Spitfire mug. And one of my first jobs was the 24 scale Spitfire. So there I was trying to pick schemes, and I looked at my mug and thought, I wonder if that's a real squadron, the aircraft shown on there. It's definitely a 9C. And lo and behold, it was. So I thought, well, I'm not picking it just because it's on my mug. But then found ML214 and Johnny Plagis flying it. And I thought, that's a great story. So that it was picked on its merit, but it was sort of rooted in what was on my mug. Became the A scheme on this Spitfire, which is quite a nice thing. And as you can see by the box illustration, it's sort of patrolling the D-Day beaches, and that's what's shown on my mug again. and it's just a great scheme. It wasn't flown by Johnny Plagis at the time. We're really keen to get some striking images with the invasion stripes on. But there's this great story of, wasn't flown by him, but then soon after D-Day, he came into the squadron with squadron leader, and has his own aircraft. And there's a really famous photo shoot, famous if you know it, I suppose, of him in the aircraft with distinctive sort of K markings, kill markings, and a Muscat city marking on it. The aircraft is actually not operational at the time, but in the decals we've included all the decals you need to show it from D-Day through to that December 1944 photo shoot. So it's a really nice thing. You can show it any time in its life there. So that's where it came from.
You can build multiple Mark 9Cs, the same aircraft through its life.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that which is quite cool.
Yeah, I think it's quite nice that then, that scheme that you've chosen is kind of will remind you of your dad and things like that.
Exactly. Well,
nice.
I'll try and keep the mug. I'm just hoping I don't drop it at some point, and then that story's gone. Really. But
it is pretty close to the end of the day.
People often ask, how do we get to the decal options? How do you choose?
Go.
So if you ever want us to
send in a mug.
if you ever want us to do one of your favourite decal options, then you basically just need to buy a mug with it on and send it into Luke. And we can't guarantee it, but I'm sure it'd be told.
It will prompt my memory when they come to pick the schemes. So it's good.
Is there anything else on the model that you think, for the people at home, this is, they're really going to enjoy modelling this, painting this? Obviously the engine is in the 124 with things like the Hellcats, that people love building that and seeing that come to life. Is there anything else that for you two personally that you're like, do you know what, particularly that?
One of my favourite things is the sort of skin effect that we've gone for, the oil canning as we call it, as you have to really with these bigger scale models, but it allows you to weather it sort of realistically, especially when you've got these sort of lumps and bumps that the real aircraft have. And Chris has done a great job of replicating that, even to the point of looking at skin, metal skin thickness at different parts and sort of adapting how he's changed the skin rippling at those points. So the leading edges, I believe, have a thicker skin, so they didn't ripple as much, but behind they were a bit thinner, so they oil canned more. And we've gone to that depth, so I love that detail.
No, I mean, I just want to get it in the market as soon as I can.
See people build,
and see what amazing builds come from it, because there are going to be some. I mean, all 4 decal options are pretty cool. I really like the American one. I'm really interested to see how the French one goes down. A lot of people have said they'll most probably do the French scheme. So obviously Luke's favourite, and he's made no secret of it.
Yeah.
So
I'd say the French, all 4 of them are. You could put one scheme in there, and it would be a great scheme.
Yeah.
The one we haven't mentioned is the B scheme, actually, which is a Canadian squadron, but it's EN398, the airframe, which, if you're an Airfix buff, is the original Mark 9 that we released at 72nd was EN398. Not in the markings we've shown it though, which is quite an interesting thing. We show it in John Johnson's aircraft, famous wing commander Johnny Johnson. We've shown it before that, before Johnny Johnson took it on. It's Ian Kelty's aircraft with a distinctive bit of nose art, and it's a great example of the earlier 9, so it's got the wider cannon breeches and bits like that, but it's a little nod to our history without repeating it and being accused of being non-original. Not to say that we won't see lots of Johnny Johnson builds, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Mark 8?
Well, we were talking about this before we came down because we knew you might mention it. So I've been told by the team that it's been designed in a way that it would be possible for us to design the Mark 8 parts at a later stage,
right?
And then use, I guess, what we would call common sprues. So the fuselage there You can see the rear sort of tail wheel section has been cut out.
Yeah.
So that allows for the retractable Mark 8 tail wheel. Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Correct.
obviously that's one of several differences to the Mark 8. But by doing this in our design and tooling for the Mark 9, it just leaves those doors open for us going forward.
Especially on a product that, we won't hide it, is going to be in the range for a long time.
Yeah.
You only have to look at, as we've said previously, the old 24 Scale Spit.
Yeah, the Mark 1. The Vintage Classics. When that's come out of the range now, it was in the range last year. So, if you want to model both, then you need to get out there and get the Vintage Classics version. So that it's been designed in a way that would allow us to design parts for a Mark 8 at a later stage. But I have to caveat by saying that no parts have been designed for a Mark 8.
Right.
But the team have just sort of said, well, if we leave this section out here, then we can design another sprue that we can then put in with those common parts. So I think it would be nice. I think, but I don't want to take it away from the Mark 9C that we've got on the table today, and hopefully will be in stores in September this year. So it's all looking positive for time frame, but things could change.
Yeah, well, I think it looks great even at this stage. So, like you said, I can't wait to see people's builds of it. And it's always impressive seeing 124 scale builds anyway. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what people can do.
At least in September, hopefully, then Telford Scale Model World.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully we'll see a few built there.
Yeah.
So that'd be quite
They'll have
good.
to move quite quickly. But
hopefully. Paramjit will have a couple.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's already working on his. I don't think that counts.
Well, guys, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you sitting down and talking about everything. I'm sure you'll be back again in future episodes. We only talked about a very small amount of the models that we've got coming out this year. So anything else that you'd like to mention before we sign off, I suppose?
I've got nothing too much.
No, nothing else. No, I don't think so. So I guess really this is the first video like this.
Yeah.
We'll run alongside Flight Deck.
Yep.
Every month. You'll be the consistent person.
Yeah, I'm going to be here chatting away to people.
To various people that I then rope in to be part of it. So I guess really for the viewers, if you like it, then comment and we can bring more people in and
let us know if there's anything you want us to sort of bring into it, talk about. It's quite a open kind of forum.
Within reason.
Within reason.
What are you doing next year? Not yet.
And we at the moment we've got a few ideas for what we'd like to talk about in the future, but it is it is about Airfix, but it's also about modelling and everything like that. So what we're going to do first off is, if you're subscribed, we're going to put a poll out with some options for our next episode, so you'll be able to vote for what you might like us to talk about. We won't tell you yet who our guests are for the next episode.
No.
We'll tell you that on social media. So we'll do the YouTube thing of like, subscribe, click the bell, and
ding
all
ding,
that. Because it's great that you support us here at Airfix, and hopefully this will give us a chance to show you things as they develop as well, and talk to the different team members, because we've got everything from graphic designers, social media, to designers, to researchers, and instructions.
We can wheel Mr. Cola out.
So thank you for you at home for watching.
Thank you.
And Luke, and hopefully we'll see you next time on Sprue Talk.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.